And I'd like to call the February 26, 2026 work session of the Stanton City Council to order. We have a missing council member this evening. We need a motion to allow him to join us remotely.
I don't have it.
Okay, all right.
It's
Actually, no, you,
right here. I apologize. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. On February 26, 2026, I received a request from Councilor Overholzer to participate remotely in the February 26, 2026 Stanton City Council meeting due to a medical emergency, a medical condition that prevents his physical attendance at the meeting. I will now entertain a motion to allow Councilor Overholzer's remote participation in the meeting pursuant to Stanton City Council Procedural Memorandum Number 3. Yes, Councilor Woods. Yes.
I motion to allow Councilor Overholzer to participate remotely pursuant to Stanton City Council Procedure Memorandum Number 3. I move to allow Councilor Overholzer to remotely participate in the February 26, 2026 Stanton City Council meeting due to a medical condition.
All righty. Thank you, Councilor Woods. Mr. Overholzer, can you please state your location?
Yes, I am at my home, 309 Rainbow Drive.
Okay, can everyone hear Councilor Overholzer? Yes, okay, thank you so much.
I think we need a second and a vote, Madam.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilor Campbell. Is there any discussion? Mr. Blair, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Let's hope that was the most confusing thing we do all night. Thank you so much. All righty, on to item 1. I will now entertain a motion to approve the work session and regular meeting minutes or agendas. My bad.
Mayor Edwards, I move to adopt the work session and regular meeting agendas as presented.
Thank you for the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Thank you both. Any discussion of the motion? Mr. Blair, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye. Thank you very much. Which takes us on to item 2, appropriately, because we are reviewing the City Council Procedure Memoranda. Ms. Beauregard.
Yes, John Blair, City Attorney, will review this item and answer any questions this evening.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Blair. How are you?
Doing well. How about everyone? Good.
Oh, well.
Great, great. As you might recall, last year we had 3 new council members take office and also Councilor Campbell. And at the time, there was talk about voting on your rules of procedure right as the first action of a new counselor. And it seemed like that was a little bit, I'll use the term unfair, as new counselors who've never been part of the body may not have been familiar and understood how the rules or procedures worked. So subsequent to a work session, the city code was amended so that instead of doing this once at the organizational meeting where new members may not have any familiarity at all with the rules, we'll now review them once every calendar year. So I'm here if there are any needs for amendments to the procedures.
Any comments from council?
I did have one that I just wanted to some clarification on and maybe discussion. For Council Procedure Memorandum Number 16 on the subject of meetings, under special meetings, it says that the mayor or any 2 members of Stanton City Council may call a special meeting. So if that happens, we're staff has to spend time to call a meeting, but it doesn't guarantee a quorum. So I was just curious of why there's a disconnect there of
I
staff
can,
could prepare a meeting and then we don't have a quorum and we have to cancel it. So I was just wondering if it would be better if we're supposed to know we have a quorum going into it, wouldn't it be better to connect those together?
well, that's in the city charter. So that's why that's in there.
Okay.
It's very old fashioned language. Mayor Edwards called me yesterday and we talked about that, the 12-hour requirement, but that was, I think, from a different era. However, it's in the city charter, so that's why it's there.
Anybody else? Mr. Blair, I wanted to bring up procedure number 17. I'm sorry. Yeah, 17, please.
Okay.
This is concerning the invocation. We start every meeting with an invocation. Everybody does it differently. And I wanted to bring up, because I'm quite guilty of this, but before commencing an invocation or a moment of silence, we are supposed to state, please feel free to join me in this invocation or moment of silence if you desire to do so. And I do not believe I've ever done that. And so I just wanted to highlight that for those who are not used to doing this, who are new, who have, like me, just neglected to do it.
Sure.
I wanted to point that out. Is everybody, I know you do this generally, and is this language okay with everybody?
How many instances would you say you haven't said that
I
and what
would
dates?
Probably
Every
say-
single
Yeah,
one.
just, oh, sorry, nothing.
Why don't we just add it to the
Yeah.
dais copies?
There you go.
as
Yeah.
We'll
Mhm.
remember to do it and you can just refresh from it.
That's a great idea.
Okay.
So that's a good point. Yep.
All right.
Excellent. All righty. Any other discussion and questions for Mr. Blair? Mr. Overholzer, do you have anything to add? All righty, terrific. All righty, well, thank you.
All
We
right. I'll have this
vote
on the consent
on the-
agenda.
right, for the next time. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Blair. Appreciate your work on that. All righty, on to item 3, we have a presentation and discussion of the results from the 2025 National Community Survey. Ms. Beauregard?
So Josh Knight, our engagement and communications manager, has been working on the results that we received earlier this year. And this is the second year we've done this survey. So we're starting to get trend data, which is really exciting. I think Mr. Knight's done a great job at putting all this together and putting it on a website. And we'll be definitely talking about this as we look over your budget. And I'm letting him get settled. That's why I'm still talking.
All right.
Going over your
stalling.
budget and talking about your strategic plans some more later this year. So I think it's just really great data to start to be, putting together and we'll just keep talking about it. So thank you, Mr. Knight. And I'll stop talking now. You're at the podium. Okay. You're good.
Perfect.
Well, I will preface this with there is a ton of data. If you've seen what was in the agenda packet or what's been posted online, there's a lot to get through. So I'll tried to break it down into some highlights and just key changes from the last survey we did in early 2024, and then along with our different benchmarks. So we'll kind of dive in at any point. Feel free to pause. I have stacks of paper that hopefully I can answer any questions that come up, but we'll kind of run through the overview real quick. So this is it's a national community survey, the same survey done across hundreds of communities across the country. It focuses on 10 specific categories of livability. Not only who lives there, but do they want to live there? So habitability and desirability being the two key things. The plan for us going forward is to do these in alternate years. We did get a little bit ahead of schedule, but it was somewhat intentional. The first one we did was early 2024. So 2 years later would be starting that survey right now. The company we used to do this came to us and said, we have capacity to do this a little bit earlier. And for us, that meant that we would have the data going into budget season. So we thought that really made a lot of sense. So we ended up doing early 2024, late 2025, but going forward, we'll get back on that 2-year cycle. But the exciting thing is we're able to build trend data, and just kind of a spoiler alert, a lot of the trends are really moving in the right direction. So some exciting numbers there. On the off years from the one we do with the community, we'll do the employee satisfaction survey, and that's really helped us a lot with our different departments figure out what's going on there. Quick timeline check. We did this again, late September was when the first piece of mail went out, the postcard invitation, September 30th. Anybody got one of these in the mail? Went out to about 3,000 households, giving you a link that you could use to do the survey, and also telling you could wait. You would get one of these about 2 weeks later. I guess October 7th is when they started going out. This had the entire survey in it, all of the questions, and along with that, still a link where if you wanted to do online, you could, but it came with a return envelope with a stamp, all of that ready to go, make it as easy as possible. A couple weeks later, the open participation survey opened online, and that one was really geared toward anybody who wanted to. That link was publicized widely in an effort to give everybody a voice who wanted to partake in the survey. By November 11th, both closed. The difference there in the timing is really just so that when we send out this statistically significant survey, this randomized sample, we don't want people to see that open participation link at the same time and ultimately fill out the wrong one. So we try and give that separation. So you have this survey for the randomized sample and then the open participation one, just a shorter window. 10 primarily question categories. So the economy, community design, safety, parks and rec. Education, arts and culture covers a pretty big swath of questions. Mobility and transportation, utilities, our natural environment, health and wellness, and then inclusivity and engagement. So how do we do it? How do we do this randomized sample? That, to be clear, that is what I'm going to focus on because that really is our statistical data. That gives us the best representation of how the entire community feels. We'll talk a little bit about the open survey at the end, and I'm happy to answer questions on that as well. We ended up sending out to 3,000 randomly selected households, goes through USPS's list. They cross-reference it to make sure nobody outside of the city boundary is getting it. We had a 16% response rate, which is still a great return. Unfortunately, not quite as high as we saw in early 2024. That time it was right around 22%. So significant drop, but I think we've talked about this in other issues where we're trying to get feedback from folks that maybe there's just a little oversaturation with surveys and trying to be deliberate about when we do surveys and how lengthy they are. But still, 16% compared to a lot of communities I looked at was a pretty good number. And it gives Polco, the company we work with for this, an error rate of about 4.6%. So a number, again, that they're happy with and we can be proud of too with that response. The responses are weighted to best reflect the demographics of the city. The ones that they try and hit are age, sex, race, Hispanic origin, housing type, and housing tenure. And basically what they do is they take the demographics they receive and then just add weight to them to get them very close, and that is to match the census data. We now have 3 ways to compare. We have our trend data from early 2024. Along with that, we can benchmark ourselves nationally against 400 communities, and then we can compare to our custom benchmarks, which is new for us this year, which were 42 communities that had similar population and similar median household income. So for the sake of this presentation, I'm going to focus on those custom benchmarks because it really gives us a better picture when we compare ourselves. So some key findings, some of the good stuff and not as good stuff. We'll go into both. Quality of life continues to rank high. Nearly 9 in 10 people would recommend living to Staunton to someone who asks. So that's a great number for us, and it's a bump up by a little bit from last year. Residents report feeling safe throughout the city. More than 9 in 10 feel safe in their neighborhoods, downtown, and from violent crime. Many local government items had statistically significant increases from the last survey. You'll hear me reference that a lot. We had a lot of questions that had maybe a 2 or 3 percentage point difference, but that really isn't enough to kind of bump into that statistical category. It had to be closer to 6% change for Polco to say, hey, this is one you should look at. This one means something. And then numerous parks and recreation, natural environment scored higher than benchmark city parks with a 90%, and then parks and rec opportunities and open space. One of the most interesting things is how we've changed from last year to this year. So 27 statistical increases from 2024, 91 questions remained similar, and 5 things went down. The change again at 5.97%, that was where we can consider it to be I'd say noteworthy. I think really any of them could be noteworthy, but that's really where we know the statistics are telling us that this one is important. Governance, several with 11 to 15% change, and we'll dive into more of these in detail. Ease of bicycle travel up 10%. Quality of service from the federal government down 14%, and the impact of the economy on your family in the next 6 months down 7%. I broke those two out separately because they're pretty much out of our control, but still, those are in the survey and I think important to talk about. These last three, I think, are a little bit more direct to us. Ease of public transit down 10%, over quality of the utility infrastructure down 9%. We're going to dive into that more as well. And snow removal was down 7%. Just to be clear, this went out in the fall, so it's before the ice storm that we had. But it probably is still a direct reflection of a winter storm we had last winter where it snowed and then the temperature did the same thing. It was brutally cold for about 10 days and the snow and ice just didn't want to go away. So I think a lot of these we can see very real-time connections. So the way we're going to go through these different facets, and I'll move a little bit more quickly here. Overall quality of life, you've got kind of the overall question on the right there with the pie graph. What we focus on are the excellent and good answers to get that percentage in the middle. And then you're going to see arrows on a lot of these individual line items, and that represents where we did see statistical change. So positive ratings as far as quality of life, we talked about a few of these, but recommending living in Staunton, that one took a big jump up, 89%. Who's likely to remain in Staunton for the next 5 years? 87% of people said, very likely or likely. Staunton is a place to work, a little bit lower there, but all of these are within benchmark, except these ones that are all above. So one of the things I think we have to caution ourselves and kind of set that context is when you see some of these lower percentages, like Staunton as a place to work, 55%, like, man, well, that's not good. That we probably should address that, but it actually falls right in line with how people feel in all of our other benchmark communities as well. So a lot of these feelings or these responses are fairly global. Of course, we want as many of them as possible to be above the benchmark, but just a little bit of context there when you look at some of these. Sense of community, 69% there. Also a little bit higher than last year's. Safety, overall feeling of safety was right at 81%. And then you can see some of the highlights there during the day in your neighborhood from violent crime. All of these, you're not going to see any check marks or any arrows because they are all very similar to 2024 numbers and very similar to what we see across the board. I think it's probably logical, but a community that is willing to do a survey like this probably prioritizes safety as well. So I think you end up with a lot of communities that have relatively high rankings. But happy to say did not go down. So all good stuff there as well. Parks and Recreation, 91% quality of parks, 85% overall quality. Again, numbers that probably shouldn't surprise anybody, but a nice change there, up. They're statistically significant for availability of walking paths and trails. And as far as what's above the benchmarks, those first three, so rec programs, rec facilities, and of course the quality of our parks. Education, arts, and culture, overall opportunities. And again, this one lumps in a few different things, 81%, see a lot of excellent and good ratings there. Community support for the arts. This one's kind of interesting. Make sure I get back to my notes here because I have a few fun facts for these. This one here, we were 80% said excellent or good, and that ended up actually being number 2, the second out of all the benchmarks, and nationally that put us into the 93rd percentile. So again, 80%. That's a B-, doesn't sound great, but when you compare it to everybody else, it's a pretty significant number. Opportunities to attend events, I feel like we're all well aware that we have a lot of that and those numbers on the rise according to this recent survey. So those three all above custom benchmarks as well. K-12 education took a big jump also up to 64%, up from 57%, and adult education opportunities took a big jump as well. And the public library at 91% took a small jump. That was up from 87%, but again, not quite reaching that 6% mark to get the arrow. This one here, again, some of these that look a little bit worse, 33% availability of affordable quality childcare. But that number actually puts us right around the 50th percentile for the national benchmark and for our custom benchmarks. So it's just, I think really just a sad reflection of the state of childcare really across the country, but puts us right in line with everybody else. Natural environment, a lot of good ratings here, 83% overall. Air quality up 88%. Open space took a bump up to 70%. So a lot of folks happy with that. And that was the one that is above the benchmarks as well. Health and wellness, just to point out here, if anybody's doing the math, the squiggly lines there next to that middle 74%, some of these rounding issues, we don't quite add up. 23 and 52, of course, aren't 74. So that's why we have those there. Availability of, again, some lower numbers here, but these are all right in line with our different benchmarks here. So 61% for quality food, healthcare, mental health care, preventive healthcare. Again, all a little bit lower numbers than we'd probably like to see, but in line with our other communities, the benchmarks as well as nationally. Utilities I want to dive into here a little bit more. I think, again, we can draw the connection with snow removal to the winter event. Utility infrastructure, we could probably draw the connection pretty easily to the boil water advisory from last August. So the overall quality of utility infrastructure, which is really almost a perception question. Most of these are really just your perception, down 57 to 57%. And that is from 66. So it's a pretty big drop. But what's really interesting when you look at the individual questions where people are asked about the different services or the different utilities, they all actually went up. So sewer services, 84%, drinking water up 77, 80% on power, garbage went up, yard waste pickup went up. I'll show you. The numbers aren't significant, but still up. Recycling, that's our one that we got to dive into a bit more. Below custom benchmark, that is the only thing in the survey that came back below our benchmarks, and that is the recycling. So I mentioned this compared to last year. Here, a new column for you, just to see. It's not a big difference, but drinking water went up 2%. Meanwhile, the overall quality of the utility infrastructure, kind of that, what do you think of our overall infrastructure, did go down. So I just think it's an important kind of point to note that individually asked specifically about different things, people say, yeah, that's great. There's a lot of excellent and good ratings. But that overall question is where we kind of saw that decrease. But still not too far off from our benchmarks as far as utility infrastructure. We'll talk more about recycling here in just a bit. But I do want to point out garbage collection, that is, along with the March rollout of new garbage cans, has gone up from 79 to 82, and yard waste pickup, that has changed, of course, as well with the modernized policy, and that's up 3%. Economy, Staunton is a place to visit. No surprise there, 87%. These top three are all above benchmark, vibrancy of downtown and the overall quality of business. Then we start to see some that are not quite as high. But again, what you'll notice is they fall in line with what we're seeing really across the country and against our other 42 communities. Employment opportunities, cost of living at 44%, and the availability of quality housing. I did want to point out there, our cost of living, even though at 44%, we actually ranked in the 83rd percentile for that question. So there's just a lot of communities that are feeling that the cost of living is unaffordable, and in many cases feeling a lot worse about it than we are. Positive impact on the family income in the next 6 months. Most people are down to 15%. That was a pretty big drop from what people said about 2 years ago. Community design, a lot of good numbers here. Overall appearance, 83%. Big increases in preservation of historical and cultural character and public places where people want to spend time. That 84%, that one is pretty cool. We are number one for that across our custom benchmarks and across every community that responded to that. We were number two. So hundreds of communities, we ranked second as far as how our people feel about our preservation of historic history. Let me see here. Other good ones, lower numbers, but still on the way up, moving in the right direction. Well-planned residential growth, commercial growth, and then land use and planning. Maybe some of that has a lot to do with the fact that we're doing our comp plan update now. So hopefully that's top of mind for a lot of folks, that that's ongoing and it's something that the city thinks about constantly, but especially right now, I feel like it's very publicized. Inclusivity and engagement, connection with the community. Just to be clear, these questions are more so about the community, not necessarily the engagement from you guys or from our office, our staff. This is the question specifically says, how do you feel the community does at making all residents feel welcome? 77% and on the way up, sense of civic pride. That one is a great number for our area. That ranks very highly against others as well. And then opportunities to participate in community matters. So all those above our custom benchmark. And let's see here, sense of community, 69%, a lot of decent numbers. And openness toward people of diverse backgrounds on the way up as well. These, none of them, again, below custom benchmarks, but that taking care of vulnerable residents, that is a slight decrease from the last survey. but again, in line with what we're seeing. Oh, I meant to switch that. Let me see here. So we have our transportation and mobility, ease of travel by car, 83%. That one is way up there. What I wanted to point out, I have that box here because these two questions were ones that we actually scored below custom or below benchmarks last year. And with our big increases in paths and walking trails and travel by bicycle, we are now actually up to benchmark status. So we are back in with everybody else across the region taking us doing these studies. Ease of public transportation has gone down some, but again, that is also in line with what we're seeing across the country. The only one there above constant benchmark was the traffic flow on major streets. So some good news there about how people are getting around. Snow removal, again, that was our one that was down significantly. It was 77%, now down to 70. But still actually puts it pretty good compared to a lot of our other communities, puts us at about the 61st percentile. So again, more than half doing worse, or at least their community feels like they're doing worse with snow removal. Sidewalk maintenance and street repair, again, not the highest percentages, but pretty much on par for what's normal. This one, saved it for the end because I think a lot of the kind of the pat on the back goes to you guys. This first one, I guess, goes to city staff, but overall customer service by city employees, 84%. It's very similar to where we were last year, but again, it's a good number and puts us pretty close to with our benchmarks. Overall quality of services, 76%, public information services on the way up. But value of the services paid, 58%, being open and transparent with the public on the way up, generally acting in the best interest of the community, and city government welcoming resident involvement. Quite a few of these are, excuse me, just that last one specifically ends up above the custom benchmark. But I think the big takeaway is that a lot of these have seen really big increases from where we were. The center number there, overall confidence in city government, that is up from 44%. So a big jump. And again, I think a lot of that has to do with the accessibility to you guys and just being as open and transparent as possible. So some growth opportunities, cost of living, economic development, employment, childcare, housing. These were all things that showed up with some of those lower percentages. But again, despite those lower scores, none of those were actually below national or custom benchmark. The reason I want to point it out is because I feel like we're a little bit ahead of the curve. Many of these themes are wrapped up in work that Rebecca is working on with housing, economic mobility and opportunity, with now Anna Levitt jumping into that position in that grant. And economic development continues to really charge ahead with their enterprise zones and all their different projects as well. So again, the numbers aren't far off from what we're seeing really nationally or with our custom benchmarks, but I feel like we are really taking those active steps to push this stuff in the right direction. So even though they weren't numbers we'd love to see, it's still kind of exciting to see that we're taking care of some of that. The one area below benchmark was recycling. Technically up from last year, 34%, but rated much lower than our national benchmarks and rated just lower than the custom. The difference there is if you're more than 20 points off, you get much lower. If you're more than 10 points off, you get lower. So it's not great for us. However, this was interesting. This was in the activity report this last month. The last 13 months, we have seen a big increase, at least the trend, as far as people taking visits to the recycling center. So I think really what this tells me is it's an opportunity to educate and an opportunity to make sure people know that this is a service that we offer. It's going to be incredibly hard to build back to some really high numbers after having curbside recycling for a long time. But I think we could see even from that modest increase from last year to this year, it's starting to catch on. People are catching on to what we offer, where they can go, and how we do it. January this year is low because we were closed for a week due to the winter storm. But even with that, saw a 60% increase from January of last year. So again, maybe it's a little bit of positive spin on our lowest number, but I do think it's important to note that, again, this one also still kind of moving in the right direction. In general, the open participation survey, we ended up with about 600 responses. So more than we did here. I was going through just kind of quality control, and a lot of the numbers end up very similar. I think in general, some of the marks are a little bit lower than what we saw with this statistical survey, the randomized sample, but a lot of it really did come in line. This is all available, everything, every answer, whether it's the open survey or this random sample survey, is available online. And we have a little one pager. You guys might have it up there I just put this on the website as well, but just kind of breaks down a lot of what we talked about here, kind of ranking some of the different things. One thing we didn't have in this slideshow, I know there was a lot, but I do just want to point out, we also asked people in these questions to rank what's most important. And the top two were the economic health of the city and the quality of the utility infrastructure. You'll hear from Jesse a little bit later about the CIP and a lot of the capital projects. And I think that number two, 92% of people say it's essential or very important that we focus on the utility infrastructure, and you'll get to hear a lot about that. So, sorry, I threw a lot at you. If you have any questions, I think I have all the supporting documents here to try and answer them. But all in all, I think numbers that we can be proud of, a lot of things, again, with significant increases, and the ones that are lower. Again, it's unfortunate they're not where we want to be, but it is similar to what we're seeing in a lot of places.
Well, thank you for all of that, Mr. Knight. You did that very quickly, and it's terrific information. And the point of a survey is to find out, what folks are thinking, and it's wonderful to see how many areas went up. But it's also good to see where areas have gone down or aren't doing as well as they should be, because that's where we target. That's where we need to really target. So I think that's the silver lining, is that we get to see what is not being perceived as being good enough or where it should be. So I think it's terrific that the staff is doing this every 2 years. And thank you for your work on that, Ms. Beauregard and Mr. Knight and your staff.
I was looking at some of the open data and I saw the same thing you did. Is overall looks like they're down, but within they match each other.
Right.
So I would just say, as we go with this, to just obviously don't focus on the open data, but follow those trends too, just to see if there's any anomalies or discrepancies.
I mean, some of it's messaging on that, but I mean, there's certainly things like the recycling, of course, bothers me too. I miss curbside, but then the general thing we were always told is if you actually want it recycled, it would have to be single source. I mean, single spot drop off on that. So, I mean, maybe there's something maybe there's ways we can find it easier for residents to get the word out better on that. So maybe it's a messaging thing. But I don't know. It's really good to see perception.
And that's part of your strategic plan now is, trying to figure out how to educate the community as far as throwing away less and recycling more and making a recycling center easier to use. Another thing about having a centralized center is it allows us to be flexible with the types of materials quickly. And so because the market changes, it's very market dependent. So I think we'll make it work. I think we just have some work to do. But I think, like, as Mr. Knight said, it's going in the right direction. And I'm glad that the trash satisfaction increased, and that felt really good to see that number. So it means we are going in the right direction, but we do need to work a little bit more on that. And that's part of your strategic plan now. And you'll see, I think we'll be addressing that as part of your next budget that will roll out next month. So
I think a part of that too, with the trash overall satisfaction and then recycling, more people will stop putting it in the trash and recycle a little bit more. And they'll have less trash, so they won't have to worry about, the extra bags going out. So, I feel that you all do a good job at pushing that recycling out and getting people to know where it's at and, just overall what you can recycle and what not to recycle. I did see something on that was sent out about the different things that can be recycled, how the bottles, plastic, the glass, and the paper and the boxes, and that helps out a whole lot.
And now they should have some new signage out there as well, and just make it all a little bit clearer, hopefully when people do show up. So
I think you're right about the perception about the infrastructure. They like the services and they rated the services high, but they also think about the infrastructure when Churchill Avenue is torn up because they're repairing a gas line. They think that's our infrastructure. Right? So that is a perception.
that's a good point. Columbia Gas tore up the city last year. I mean, they seem to be everywhere all the time, and we couldn't keep up fast enough and we totally get it. We understood, we did our best to say, kind of fix the patches where we, have Public Works can get Columbia Gas to be responsive. But we were literally just trying to keep up with it. And so when that happens, you're right. They call us and we address it the best we can with
Right.
another company.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
But it's a city perception.
absolutely.
Any other questions?
I,
I'm sorry.
I do appreciate this survey. I've had some experience designing and administering satisfaction surveys like this, and doing it periodically, seeing the changes over time, and then demonstrating accountability to our residents to say, we're aware that this is an area that you'd like to see improvements, and here's what we're doing about it. So to be able to say about recycling, for instance, we've upgraded the signage. The one challenge I think with this survey type is all of it is in survey lingo, it's closed-ended questions. So it's multiple choice, basically, no chance for comments. So it's a bit of a mystery. We can sort of speculate on things like how can we improve our residents' experience with recycling, and what changes in education can we provide to increase their use of recycling. It may be worth some follow-up there, either another survey that lets them comment, or perhaps sort of a focus group or ad hoc group, a representative group of residents that we can just sit down with and say, help us think about this and give us your input about what would motivate you to recycle more. How could we improve this service? But it's a great effort. It's great to see the improvements and changes, and to provide the accountability to the public. Say, we hear you, and demonstrate here's where we're getting better, and we want to get better in the areas where you identified deficiencies as well.
It might call for a town hall, Jeff.
Sounds like maybe you should do that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Overholzer. Any other comments for Mr. Knight, for staff?
No, great presentation.
So I know it was a lot,
It's okay.
very hard for me to not point at them.
Yeah.
So
No, that's fine. And it's something I'd like to dig more in. And
Yes.
so I appreciate this very much.
yeah, if you do have any follow-up, please feel
Will
free to
do.
reach out. I feel like I have a pretty good handle on it now.
Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
appreciate it, Josh. We are finishing this up quite early, despite the technology problem. So it is now 6:10, and the work session of the Stanton City Council is adjourned. We'll see you back here at 7 o'clock, I hope. Thank you all for being here. Good evening, everyone. It is 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call the February 26th, 2026 regular meeting of the Stanton City Council to order. Please stand as you are able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, I will be combining my mayor's report and the invocation. Right behind the sheriff's head, good evening, Sheriff Artless, there are 4 photographs. And in those 4 photographs is a single woman who is a very important woman, obviously, and I'm going to be speaking about her this evening. As we continue our observance of Black History Month, I would like to honor the life and legacy of Mrs. Rita S. Wilson, the woman these chambers are named for. We do not need to look outside of our city to encounter and honor history makers. While I did not know Miss Rita Wilson personally, many in this room and throughout our community did, and I have come to understand they were inspired by her kindness, her strength, and her steady leadership. Rita Wilson was a trailblazer, the first African-American woman elected to Staunton City Council. From 1991 to 2008, including her service as vice mayor, she helped guide our city with grace, an inclusive perspective, and deep commitment. Her life reflected perseverance and a belief in lifelong learning. After raising her children, she returned to college and devoted herself to public service and civic engagement, supporting many organizations that strengthened our community. Rita Wilson believed in opportunity, dignity, and inclusion. Her leadership broadened representation and enriched the civic life of Staunton. Today, her legacy lives on through her family, these city council chambers, and through the Rita S. Wilson Memorial Scholarship through the Community Foundation. In remembering her tonight, I want to spotlight and lift up both her achievements and the example she set for all who serve. Feel free to join me in this invocation if you desire to do so. Gracious God, we give thanks for the life and legacy of Rita S. Wilson, for her courage and steadfast dedication to this community. May her example guide us to lead with wisdom, to serve with humility, and to act with fairness, integrity, and care. May we honor Ms. Wilson's memory and the legacy of all courageous African Americans who have endured, who have persevered, and who have served by knocking down barriers, building bridges, and creating a smoother path for those who follow them. Amen. Any other comments from members of council? Thank you all very much.
Thank
Mr. Overholter.
you. To sort of segue from what you just shared, I participated in a Ida B. Wells panel discussion at Mary Baldwin University commemorating 30 years of the Black Student Alliance on that campus. It was one of many events at Mary Baldwin celebrating Black History Month, but it was encouraging and inspiring to hear students share about the obstacles they overcome, the sense of discomfort when Mary Baldwin 30 years ago was over 95% white. So they were overcoming barriers, overcoming prejudices, and it's one of the most diverse institutions in the state now. And I really appreciate Mary Baldwin. I appreciate the courage and the perseverance, the resilience of those students, and the contribution that they make to Staunton, enriching this city and adding so much for the city. I also participated in a Building Bridges meeting featuring Habitat for Humanity's Brad Bryant. And his energetic and creative engagement is yielding results. He's partnering with Renewing Homes of Augusta County City staff, the Staunton Redevelopment and Housing Authority, and it's just good to hear the energy and engagement that he has. And I also encourage the public to help us imagine what downtown can be. There was a terrific exhibit led by Tracy Weil and her architecture students at the Staunton Augusta Arts Center, and that included several workshops, and community members were invited to comment and to contribute and to respond to the students' visions of what downtown could look like, anticipating possible daylighting of streams in the wharf area, an area where we have commissioned a study. But they went beyond that. They looked at wayfinding, parking, green space, performance space. It was just really inspiring exhibit. And I hope that we'll have more opportunities for the public to engage and to give ideas and building and imagining the future downtown. We really want the public to be a partner in that process. And I just congratulate the Arts Center and Tracy Weil and her class and her students. And in helping us do that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Overholzer. Any other items from counselors?
Yeah, let's see, Councilor Woods and Councilor Shepherd and I were at the ceremonial breaking for the Arcadia project. They're moving forward in the next phase of that, and they're coming along with that. It's exciting to see that amount of energy in that building and happening with that. And it's just that theater has been neglected for so long. It's great to see things happening.
Yes, there's a tremendous crowd on a
Yeah.
cold day.
Very cold day.
Thank you all. Thank you for your participation in the community. All righty. Well, if we have no more, we will have a nominations.
Mayor Edwards.
Yes, ma'am.
I am the chair of the nominations committee. I would like to make a motion. I move that the Stanton City Council appoint Sheba Lane to the Stanton Redevelopment and Housing Authority for a 4-year term commencing March 1st, 2026 and ending February 28th, 2030. Reappoint Jason Clark to the Library Advisory Board for a 3-year term commencing March 1st, 2026 and ending February 28th, 2029. Appoint Monica Quarles to the Recreation Advisory Committee for a 3-year term commencing March 1st, 2026 and ending February 28th, 2029. Appoint Kendrick Heyer to the Planning Commission for a 4-year term commencing March 1st, 2026 and ending February 28th, 2030. Appoint Antoine Suter to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission to a term commencing March 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2026. Appoint Helene Raven Bruno to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission to a term commencing March 1st, 2026 and ending September 30th, 2027.
Thank you. Mr. Blair, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you and congratulations to all our new board members and commission members. Thank you for your service. So our first item on the regular agenda is the consent agenda. Per procedure memorandum number 14, it's the policy of the city council to have routine, non-controversial items placed on a consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be voted on in one motion. If separate discussion of an item is requested by any member of council, that item will be removed and considered separately at the end of the regular meeting agenda. Do any members of council wish to remove an item to be placed at the end of the regular meeting agenda for separate consideration? All righty. Since there are no requests, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Campbell.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Councilor Woods. Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Blair, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Blair. Okay, we're moving on to item B. We have a public hearing for an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2026 budget for the city of Staunton by adding budget amendment number 2. Ms. Beauregard, please.
Ms. Jessie Moyers, our Chief Finance Officer, is here this evening to walk through this item, answer any questions before the public hearing.
Good evening, Ms. Moyers.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. So this is our second budget amendment, and by far our largest. This is the one that we do once the audit has been completed. The school board held their public hearing and approved the budget amendment at their February 9th meeting. This budget amendment does require a public hearing, and it was advertised on February 18th in the newsletter. You will not consider this budget amendment tonight. Consideration will be brought back to you at the March 12th meeting. Do I need to turn it on? Or- Here we go. So the biggest part of this budget amendment is appropriating the prior year fund balance, and I separated it into two columns to make it a little easier to understand and to read. The first column is restricted fund balance. The second column on the right is the unrestricted fund balance. So we're appropriating $4.3 million from the restricted fund balance. About 3.7 of that is our VDOT maintenance fund carryover. We've had that carryover the last few years due to staffing issues, paving contractor availability, things like that. We've had a couple meetings with Public Works to come up with a strategy on how to spend those funds. And we're getting sidewalk repair contracts and line painting contracts, and maybe a secondary paving contractor lined up to help with that. About 350,000 is for the opioid carryover, carry forward. 157 is for Funds for Life and Fire Program. 78,000 for state and federal forfeited assets for the police department. A little over 24,000 for state forfeited assets for the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. 5,129 for forest sustainability funds. And then 2,876 for Booker T. Washington facility funds, 1,867 for the Susan Blackley grant funds, and a little over 1,000 for the nature parks. Over on the right-hand side, we've had meetings about the carryover. This is our unrestricted carryover. Tonight, we're appropriating $4.9 million. The biggest portion of that, the 3.6, will be a transfer to our CIP fund to fund this year's CIP. Almost 812,000 is a transfer to the CIP to fund the infrastructure repairs. This is for the tunnel repair work that is currently going on. 200,000 is to support wharf businesses during this repair work. 135,000 for firearm replacement for the police department. 100,000 transfer to the CIP for city hall improvements. This is for signage indoors. And 23,000 for firearm replacement for the sheriff's office. Any questions before I move on? I know it's a lot. So there is 34,310 in recovered cost. Majority of that is insurance recovery for parks and rec facilities. We had some of our bathrooms damaged, 28,606, and then an insurance recovery of 5,704 for the fire department. New grant opioid grant funds that came in FY26 of 114,700. And then 607,438 for grants and contributions, made up of additional VDOT maintenance funds for the FY26 budget of 433,955. 56,121 fire program funds. An additional 47,879 for the economic mobility grant. An additional 43,758 for law enforcement, the 599 funds. A $25,000 grant for the U.S. Marshals Task Force funding, and 725 additional funds for life. In the grant fund, we're appropriating 28,197. 11,990 is for the DCJS grant. 8,499 for the First Responders Wellness Grant. 7,708 for the PSAP Equipment Grant. And then we move to the capital fund. We're appropriating $9.1 million. Most of that is coming from our transfer in from the general fund that we had just talked about. I will be going through the 3.628 million that we'll be appropriating on the next few slides. There's the 811,730 that you saw in the general fund for the tunnel repairs, the $100,000 for the city hall improvements. And then the health department roof, this is something we've done the last few fiscal years where their actuals are less than their original budget. So we're setting that money aside because they are in need of a roof replacement and other repairs to that building. We are appropriating the VDOT Smart Scale funding for the Edgewood Sidewalk project. It's a little over 3.6 million. And then we have earned an additional 750,000 of interest on our CIP funds. This is from about March last year to about March this year. We had been putting that in the Parks and Rec Public Use Facility funds, but right now I just have it as undesignated. You guys do have the ability to direct that somewhere else if you wish. 142, 292 for the NG 911 equipment grant. And then just a little amount of recovered cost, $25. So you've seen this slide before. This is the CIP that we are funding, the $3,628,050. Most of these are our normal reserves. I did mark the ones that are either our first year of funding or we're increasing the funding from prior year. Would you like me to read through these or do you have any questions? The only difference between the CIP that you approved and these here are the $100,000 that was set aside for the Gypsy Hill Park lighting project that is now being redirected to the police department's CAD RMS system that is coming in over budget. The Gypsy Hill Park lighting electrical project was funded. It was much cheaper than it was originally expected.
Crossing Park and Ride lighting, that's additional lighting out there.
Yes, it's in addition to the solar lights that are out there now.
Jesse, I'm wondering, I understand that the newest fire trucks will be coming relatively soon. So since money has been put aside each year, will there be enough to have a replacement fund? Will that be a healthy fund?
Yes, Jason
Coming
is
up.
here. I believe we're scheduled to purchase the next one. Is it July 26 or 27? January 27? We will order the next one January of 27.
Mm-hmm.
And usually there is a 2 to 3 year wait period on that. That is the rest of the projects. So then we move on to the bond fund. We are appropriating $361,393. That is additional interest earned on the bond funds for the courthouse. We originally estimated at 500,000, came in a little, almost 900,000, and that is it's going to offset the construction costs at the courthouse. Blue Ridge Court Services, that's a negative 10,600, adjusting their grant revenue balance down. Water fund, 1,151,145. That is reappropriating the bond proceeds from that Gardner Springs bond issuance. We are 765,726 will go to the Gardner Springs pump station project. That was for a fairly large change order that was needed there. 265,000 for the Clearwell cover replacement project. That is coming in a little higher than what we had planned in the CIP. Almost 100,000 is being used for the Staunton Crossing water lines. A little over 15,000 for the Staunton Crossing water tank, and then an additional 5,500 for the Uniontown PER.
What is PER?
Yeah,
Preliminary engineering report.
that's right. And of course, we're also still designating, what was it, like 287?
Yes, that is in
And-
the reserves.
Yeah.
That you will not see on here because those are funded directly from the operating budget, and we do not wait for carryover to fund those.
Okay.
And then $300 appropriation for the environmental fund, and that's just to adjust their DEQ grant. I'll move on to the school amendment, which is about 3.6 million. Education fund of about 1.9 million. And most of that is their grant revenue, federal and state grants prior year. And then the prior year fund balance of about 713,000. They had received a bonus from the state that was kept in fund balance and then given to the employees in FY26. So that was carried over. There's a few restricted donations in there too. An insurance proceed of 3,469. The SOP fund, which is the state operated programs, 31,376, additional grant revenue. Cafeteria, 77,760. Most of that is 63,658 for the prior year fund balance. That's for restricted gifts and grants for the cafeteria. Their bonus equaled 14,102, and it's being funded from a transfer from the education fund. Textbook fund, 958,584, and that is just their carryover specifically for textbooks. School CIP, 640,997. 246,000 of that is for their annual school security equipment grant. 225 from their carryover from their education fund into their CIP fund. And then the 170,000 from the city CIP fund that we're appropriating for their CIP fund. So that is all I had for the budget amendment. I can take questions or we can move into the public hearing.
Any questions for Ms. Moyers? No, then we'll go ahead and start the public hearing. Thank you, Ms. Moyers.
Thank you.
In just a moment, I will open the public hearing. This portion of the meeting is set aside for council to hear comments from citizens and others on the specific topic listed on the agenda. When it's your turn to speak, please begin by stating your name and address for the record. We ask that you keep your remarks to 5 minutes or less. When your 5 minutes have passed, I will let you know that your time has expired. For those joining us on Zoom, please raise your hand now if you wish to speak on this public hearing item. You'll also have the opportunity to participate later during other public hearings and during matters from the public. Once everyone who wishes to speak has had a chance to do so, I will close the public hearing. At this time, if you wish to speak, please come to the podium or raise your hand on Zoom.
Aaron Barmer, Staunton, Virginia. I have a question about the general fund under the $607,438 for grants and contributions. There's the two items for $43,758 for law enforcement 599 funds, followed by $25,000 for U.S. Marshal Task Force funding. Am I going to be able to get a explanation for that, or are you able at this time to explain what that comprises or what that is applied toward?
During public hearings, we don't respond to questions. We can speak about that after the meeting if you have questions.
I'm looking for an explanation of that in detail, please.
Mr. Knight, do we have hands raised?
We have no hands raised.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this public hearing item?
We have one hand
Oh,
raised.
okay. Hello, caller. Good evening, caller.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go
Okay.
ahead.
I'm Mark Hopp. I live on Hilltop Drive in Stanton. Just a few updates on the issue of surveillance. According to a recent.
Mr. Hop, let me stop you here. This is a public hearing about that's okay. If you want to call back during the matters from the public.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's no
Okay.
problem. No problem. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Do we have any other hands raised?
There are no hands raised.
Okay. All righty. Public hearing is now closed. And we have no vote on this evening, but it will come back to us in March.
Can we ask Ms. Moyer if she has any information on those two items questioned at the public hearing?
Oh, sure. Thank you.
The 599 funds is just an allocation straight from the state. And they increase it, but we have to budget based on prior year because we do not know what the increases at the time of the budget. The other one? I can look for an answer if you want.
Did you just say they come from the state?
Yes, 599 funds, I believe, come from the
Yeah,
state.
all localities receive that money.
Yes.
It's for public safety, police protection. That's what it's called. The HB 599 just refers to the original bill number when that was established years ago. And we receive about 2 million a year, I think. Or a little bit change, maybe a
Yeah,
little
I don't
above
remember
that.
the exact amount.
We can certainly, I mean, we have to consider this at a next meeting anyway, so we can always ask the question.
Yeah, I can
again.
definitely get you an answer. It's just I'm flipping through all the documentation and
We'll get an answer.
Did you get, yeah,
I just have the grant documentation of the 25,000.
But we can put a response together and,
Yep.
and send an email out. If that will suffice. Okay.
I can get a copy of that.
that would be great. Thank
Let
you,
you know what
Mrs.
that's for.
Moyers. Thank you for the question too. All righty, we're going to move on to item C, a discussion of the proposed FY 27 to FY 31 capital improvement plan. Ms. Beauregard.
Yes, Ms. Moyers is going to also present
Again,
this item.
hello,
and
Ms.
answer any
Moyers.
questions.
So the planning, I introduced the CIP to the Planning Commission in January. And February 19th meeting, we held the public hearing and then the acceptance of the CIP plan by the Planning Commission. Nobody spoke at that public hearing. We did receive one comment afterwards that I need to follow up on. So we're introducing it tonight. We do have additional work sessions, April 2nd, to talk about it again. And then hopefully it will be adopted April 23rd along with our budget. So the 5-year plan for the general fund is a little over 47 million. Water fund is a little over 22 million. Sewer is 10,800,000. Stormwater is 1.4. Environmental fund, and this is just the city's share. This does not include the landfill of 1.5 and Stanton City Schools of about 6.2. So I wanted to go over some of the new reserves that we have. This one was added during the budget process last year, and this is setting aside 2 cents of the real estate rate based on the 2025 values. And this is for infrastructure improvements. And it relates directly to your city council Stanton plan. The first focus is on the tunnel repairs. And this is funded out of the operating budget, not the carryover funds. This is new in this updated CIP. Proposed funding starts at 100,000 and increases to 250 over the 5 years. And it's for environmental sustainability and resiliency. And this is also directly from the Stanton plan. Biking and walking infrastructure and amenities. This is not new. It is combining 3 existing reserves, the new sidewalks, the greenways, and the bike and ped. The funding that you see there for 625 and FY 27 and moving up to 725 is the existing funding for those 3 combined into one reserve. This also relates to your 2026-2028 Stanton plan for a healthy community. New general fund projects, Reimagine Booker T. Washington School. We have it scheduled to begin this fiscal year, hopefully, funded by West End Reserves. And it would fund a consultant to facilitate a community visioning process. And this could be used to help us secure additional future grant funds. This is also in the Stanton plan for economically vibrant community. Recreation master plan. This aligns with the Stanton plan, a healthy community. And it would develop a long-term comprehensive strategy for guiding, planning, development, and managing of Staunton's parks, facilities, and programs. Last assessment was in 2007. Estimated cost is about 90,000, and it would be funded with CIP reserves that have already been identified for parks. Re-envisioning downtown Staunton is from the 2026-2028 Staunton Plan for an economically vibrant community. It will encourage future growth, improve wayfinding, identify opportunities to redevelop the wharf, reinvestments in the train station, expansions, improvements to shop and dine out, improved integration of MBU, and the expansion of SDDS services. Estimated cost is 100,000, and it would be funded from general fund carryover up next year. Development of the remainder of the JDR District Courthouse site on West Beverly that aligns with the 2026-2028 Staunton Plan. Estimated cost is 250. And that is an economically vibrant community, identifying 1 to 2 opportunities for the advancement of the West End. Other general fund projects, most of these are from last year's CIP. They're not new, except for the garden center updates of 100,000 that was added during this update. The duck pond dredging of 150,000 was added during this update. The West Johnson Street retaining wall was in the CIP, but is being delayed until FY27 due to the tunnel repairs that are happening right down the street from it. And then an assault shed equipment building for Public Works equipment was proposed in FY27 for 350. Any questions before I move on?
Could you, I'm sorry, Ms. Morris, could you go back to the development of remainder of the JDR District Court site? Are you, does this have anything to do with the design plan that we're going to be seeing in March, funding that?
Yes. So the design plan you're going to see actually was funded with the Brownfields grant,
Okay,
and it's
right.
just a concept plan. So the next step with that, after that, will be a master plan.
Okay, so
And
that's,
so really, this is just planning money until
Yeah.
we understand what the cost could be, depending on what feedback we receive from you all and how you want to move forward. So, yes, ma'am.
all right, thank you very much.
So next is the VDOT administered projects. These are not our projects. They will be handled administration. The first one, there is a local funding portion of 1.2. We've discussed that at prior meetings. 600,000 will be funded from money that we have set aside already for that. The other 600 is VDOT maintenance funds. The Commerce Road, Lewis Creek Greenway, that estimate has been increased to 6.3. So I just wanted to point that out. And then the Churchville Avenue streetscape, that does have a local funding piece of a little over $1 million. And that will come out of carryover money from, I think it's Central Avenue streetscape. And there's some brick sidewalks and things that can help fund that balance. The Uniontown Neighborhood Action Plan, this is not new, but there are updates to point out. The sewer infrastructure is now estimated to cost 6.6 as of the time I prepared the slides, but I think we've added another 200,000 since then to design an acquisition of right-of-ways, about 6.8. Water, I believe we've added $75,000 there to the design. Unfunded city projects, about 82 million are identified in this CIP. New police station of a little over 23 million. New fire station, 18. Additions to the fire station number 2 of 6.2. These are all from the public facilities study that we had done a few years ago. Frontier Drive improvements, 10.4 million. And then various streetscape projects that have been identified for 24 million. Water fund, we have an annual replacement of 450,000. Fiscal 27, our big project will be the Richmond Avenue, this is phase one of that line replacement of 2.5 million. And then the Franklin Hills #1 water tank inspection and repainting of 290. Moving into FY 28, we have a water treatment filter rehab of 1.2 million. Franklin Hills #2 water tank inspection and repainting of 126,000. We've added into this CIP the North River Pipeline study of 200,000. That will be, the replacement of that pipeline is on our unfunded list in the water fund, and you'll see that shortly. And then the Watertown Union Extension, this is the construction of that of 3.75 million. FY 29 will be the Shutterley Mill water tank inspection and repainting of a little over $1 million. Richmond Road, phase 2. That one is scheduled for 29. More than likely, we'll need to take out debt unless we have a stronger fund balance by that point. 10.6 million, and then water treatment plant roof of 190. This is our unfunded water projects of almost 50 million. A little intimidating to see that number. Most of it relates to our North River pipeline that leads from the water sources in Augusta County to the city of Staunton's water treatment plant. And then the new raw water source development of about 8 million. Sewer projects, our annual sewer line replacement there is 250,000. FY 27 projects is the New Hope Road pump station of 500. The design of the old Staunton steam laundry sanitary sewer line relocation of 50. And then starting the PER for the Lewis Creek sanitary sewer downtown 150. And then FY 28, I have not updated that number, but that number should be 6 million for the Uniontown. And then design of Commerce Road sewer line phase 2 of 200,000. FY 29, we have the Locust Avenue sewer of 900,000. And then Commerce Road, that should be phase 2 of 950,000. Fiscal year 2030 is the Sherwood Avenue sewer relocation of 250. And the design of Lewis Creek phases 3 and 4 of 300,000. And then the construction of 3 and 4 phases at 2.7, which currently is identified as unfunded at this point, and funding will become clearer as we move to the next fiscal year, a couple fiscal years. And then design of the Institute sewer line replacement of 250 in FY 2031. Stormwater projects, currently in FY 26, we have the flood resiliency plan, the wharf daylighting study, and the Lake Thames continuous monitoring control system. The Asylum Creek and the Staunton High School stream restorations have been removed after further consideration because they do not provide the TMDL credits, the most cost-effective way to get those credits. FY 29 is the Green Hills Industrial Park for about 1.4 million. Any questions before I move on to schools?
Just one quick question. The sewer and water infrastructure breakout, it wasn't broken out of the tunnel work. All the money spent on the tunnel project, that included any of the infrastructure?
For the sewer?
Yeah.
I have not seen any separate numbers to fund that from the sewer fund. Right now, it's currently coming out of the general fund.
Okay.
I can see if there's a way for us to separate that out and charge the sewer piece to the sewer fund, but
I was just curious if that included in the monies that are spending on the sewer or the tunnel repair, if that included the work on the utility lines.
Lyle, can you speak to that?
Good evening. So you're referring to what's currently going on out there, what's under contract, the construction for the tunnel repairs under Byers, Johnson Street and New Street. to get in there to replace the sections of the tunnel requires some utility relocation, including our water and sewer, as well as some third-party utilities. All that money, or all that work is included in the current construction contract. And so I believe that is coming from the general fund source.
Okay.
Those
Thanks.
are it, to do the tunnel repair work requires the relocation of those utilities.
Okay, so that's included in that budget.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Yeah.
And then, Mr. Hart, while you're up here, so the Green Hills Industrial Park, the basin retrofit, that's replacing the the two stream restorations just from the benefit we get from meeting the state requirements? Or was that already there?
I'd have to check with environmental programs about that. I don't want to.
Okay. I was just curious if you knew or could describe what a basin retrofit.
I cannot describe a basin retrofit.
We'll find out.
We do have a project sheet on it. It's converting two existing dry detention basins in the Green Hills Industrial Park into wet ponds for sediment forebays.
Oh.
If you want additional information, we can get that from Willow Hughes and follow up with the group if you would like.
That's good. I was just wondering if we were going from wet to dry or dry to wet.
Any other questions before I move into cities or the school CIP?
For those big unfunded projects, the police department, the fire department, have we done any scenario planning to sort of look at our current tranches of debt and when we could prudently take on more debt? Likely, what would those annual payments start to be?
So since we had to take on the courthouse debt, it's not in our near future unless there is a significant tax increase. It's pretty far out until some of that bigger debt starts to be retired.
When does the school debt, when will that be retired?
Never.
20 more years, I believe.
The high school?
Yeah.
The elementary school
Uh-huh.
renovations are coming off in 2 years, I think.
It's a few-
That's a minimal amount.
Few
right?
100,000, yes.
High school's, yeah, 20 more years at least.
Currently, we are not fully funding our debt. We're using our debt fund balance to make our payments on the courthouse debt. And when that fund balance runs out is about when the crossing debt falls off our debt schedule. So we're already planning to use some of that debt that's being retired to fund our courthouse.
And that's a 20-year bond. So we're down to,
I believe courthouse was 15.
But yeah, courthouse was
it's
15,
15.
school was
Good deal.
30.
Yeah.
Yes.
School was 30.
Right.
And using that debt fund balance was the only way that we could get that
right.
courthouse debt without a real estate tax increase specifically for that.
For the North River water lines, that huge number, are we hopeful about getting any grant money for that? And are we starting to pursue opportunities?
We're starting with the study in hopes that if there were grant opportunities, that would help us with writing that grant. I'm not aware of any grant opportunities at this time, but we would certainly take any grant funds that would be available.
Any other questions before we move on to school? No? Okay, thank you.
So schools, annual bus replacement of 125. The city has started funding 25,000 of that, or I believe it's 50,000. In schools is funding 75 in hopes to replace one bus a year. 2027, the Shelburne Old Gym HVAC of 150. Shelburne generator project of 630,000. Chromebook replacements. Most of these Chromebooks were bought shortly after COVID and are scheduled replacements in the near future or in a few years. 308,000 in FY27. And then 1.6 if they replace up to their current amount, with a large amount of that being unfunded at this point, unless there is additional state money or grant revenue to fund the technology. Dixon School generator, 300,000 in FY28. FY28 is also the Ware ADA ramp of 300,000. Adding a bathroom down at the Staunton High School track in 29 for 350,000. FY 29 Dixon boiler replacement of $500,000. There are a few recoats for roofs in FY 27 will be Shelburne for 387, Dixon of 195 in FY 28. McSwain is scheduled for a little under 100,000 in 29, and then Stanton High School for 300,000 in 2030, and that is to maintain our warranty. You have to do a recoat every 10 years, just in case you're wondering why that's on there. Parking lot repaving, McSwain is scheduled for FY 27, 300,000. Bessie Weller, 300,000 in 28, and Ware for 300,000 in 29. They have small reserves for furniture and equipment of 25,000 a year, and vehicle reserves of 25,000 per year. Unfunded school projects is 160 million. FY 26-27 is the SB Cal renovation of a little under 10 million. That would be Stanton's share of that. Shelburne renovation of 60 million. Dixon School renovation of 60 million. And then in 2031, operations facility of 30 million. And that concludes my presentation. I can take additional questions.
Back to timing on the Uniontown utilities. So we're updating the preliminary engineering reports now. And is that to prepare us to go to bid for the design of the utilities? Do we
Yes.
have an estimated time frame of when because we have the money now
Yes.
for the design?
Lyle can correct me, but I believe we're still on time to get that encumbered this fiscal year.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
But should set us up well for the planned FY 28 for construction then, hopefully.
Yes.
You know, we just had a presentation during the work session about what the community's perception of Staunton. And I think, if I recall, I don't know if it was the economic health or good infrastructure, which one was more important. But everyone is very aware and wants good infrastructure. And that's the most expensive part of, I think, of what we're looking at. And most of this was unfunded. So, you know, I feel like it's important to say there's a hard road ahead in making our city healthy as far as a strong infrastructure. And it doesn't come cheap at all.
Right. And we will have a session for council on utility rates and where we
Right.
stand, what we're able to fund with those current rates, how we compare to other localities. I believe it's scheduled for the March 12th meeting.
Any other comments for Mrs. Moyers before? All righty, well, we'll have the public hearing then. There is no public
No
hearing
public.
No action.
and no action.
That'll be in March.
Okay,
CIP is the
April,
same public
actually.
hearing as the budget. right?
Correct, in April, I'm sorry. It'll be
right.
in April.
April 23rd, you said?
No, whatever the first meeting in April is, which I can't remember the date, the 9th.
We have one like every week in April, I think. All right, thank you very much, Ms. Moyers, for your information.
April 9th.
Before we move on to our matters from the public, can everybody who is a Mary Baldwin student raise their hand? Is that our?
Squirrels.
They're okay, good to go squirrels. Other students in the back, where are you from? You're Riverhead students. Are you here for a government class? Well, welcome. Thank you for being here. Wonderful. Thank you. You're very welcome anytime. And Mary Baldwin students, you're very welcome to be here. Thank you. So we will move on to matters from the public. It's a time that council sets aside to hear from citizens and others about a wide variety of subjects. A copy of the Stanton City Council's matters from the public rules are available over there on that table in paper form, and you can also find them on Stanton City's website. You're asked to please familiarize yourself with those rules before commenting. If you would like to speak, please come to the podium now or raise your hand on Zoom. First, give your name and address and complete your remarks within 5 minutes. As a reminder, this is a time for council to listen. If you would like an answer to a question or a follow-up to your comment, please speak with the city manager, Leslie Beauregard, following the meeting, or touch base with one of us after the meeting as well. So if you would like to speak, please come to the podium. We'll start with you, and we'll alternate between folks present and those on Zoom. Mr. Knight, do we have any hands raised?
We have one hand raised.
Alrighty. Hello, caller.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Okay. I'm Mark Hopp. I live on Hilltop Drive in Staunton. On the surveillance of things, according to the recent article this week in Staunton's citizen survey, citizens stated that, according to the survey, quote, statistically valid randomized sample of city residents. The article in WHSV said that, quote, the high majority, 95%, said they felt very safe or somewhat safe in the city during the day, which is great. So the city spoke, and a vast number of people said they feel safe, all the more reason to not have mass surveillance in Staunton. As several citizens have spoken regarding the subject, we don't live in East LA or a war zone. Automatic license plate readers, facial recognition cameras, drones, and stingray devices that trick your cell phone into thinking it's a tower only allow to download your personal data are all battlefield developed and meant for the battlefield. In a battlefield, the rule of law is suspended, not in the city of Staunton, thankfully. According to the Virginia State Crime Commission's official report on ALPR use, dated January of this year, it was reported that 13% of reporting agencies admit sharing data from mass surveillance with agencies outside the state of Virginia in direct violation of Virginia law. 35% admit to taking no steps to raise awareness about their use of automatic license plate readers as required by law. Approximately 1/3 of agencies in the state of Virginia never even bothered to respond to the report. So the number in violation are likely higher than what the report comes up with. According to a WHSV article, over 800 people have signed a petition to take down flock camera license plate readers in Harrisonburg. While much of the focus seemed to be on ICE, clearly those who fully understand that this issue goes farther than just ICE. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement is really just the tip of the iceberg and in the public eye currently. History tells us that when tools are available for abuse, they will be abused. It's just a matter of time, and that's why the founders gave us our Bill of Rights that includes a Fourth Amendment, and I'm quite sure that they would find this tracking an abuse of the Constitution. Besides internal concerns, the risks of data breaches, hacking, and international data concerns come to mind. Not enough time in 5 minutes to cover the concerns, but flat out, it's inhumane to track people like an animal when they're innocent. Besides, there's already enough of our information floating around out there from our phones. Why add more? In a very closely related article at WHSV from yesterday titled Expert Weighs In on the Environmental Impact of Data Centers in Virginia. In the opening statement, the journal brings up, quote, as artificial intelligence continues to grow, so does the demand for data centers, the facilities that power everything from cloud storage to AI tools. So let's back up a minute and consider what the last article I referenced was about, surveillance. And what does modern surveillance depend on more and more? Artificial intelligence. That's right. So we have, the more mass surveillance we have, we also are destroying the environment by feeding these data centers. So for a little bit of convenience and a questionable ability to reduce crime rates, as to the date I'm unaware of any statistically randomized studies that demonstrate that they do reduce crime rates, we are literally destroying our children's psychological, sociological future with mass surveillance and our children's homes and planet Earth with these data centers. You know what? You know the thing that gives us we need to live, and whoever's calling these safety initiatives and smart cities, I'll challenge anyone who thinks this garbage makes our future safer or smarter. Let's sit down and have a long talk about the definition of safety and smart. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hopp. Mr. Barmer.
Madam Mayor, members of council, Aaron Barmer, Stanton, Virginia. Madam Mayor, your opening remarks about Ms. Wilson jogged my memory. Years ago, I saw the documentary that Mr. Alan Moyer and his students at Mary Baldwin produced about the communities over on Johnson Street primarily and the Booker T. Washington High School alumni. They made a documentary. It's called Threads of History, Conversations with a Community. You could find, find a DVD copy of this over at the Staunton Public Library, but it is also up on YouTube on Mr. Moyer's YouTube channel. That is, well, come on, work with me here. Hold on here. Excuse me. Yes, it's up on his YouTube channel. It's just Alan Moyer on YouTube. But I'll read his description of the video Threads of History, Conversations with a Community. It visually records the recollections of Booker T. Washington High School alumni, their teachers, and past and present residents of the adjacent neighborhoods in Staunton, Virginia. The film focuses on intersections, relationships, and the school as a prevailing thread that link all aspects of life during segregation. Participants tell of a supportive educational atmosphere and a neighborhood that nurtured its own. Produced by students of the Mary Baldwin University Film Department. Threads of History, Conversations with a Community was made possible by grants from the Carol and Grace Patsy Gwynn Memorial Fund, a donor-advised fund at the Community Foundation of the Central Blue Ridge, the Virginia Foundation for the Humanities, and with the support of Mary Baldwin University. It is an absolutely beautiful documentary for anyone who hasn't seen it, very touching. It's just a very up close and personal, a lot of interviews with people who are now not with us, for a lot of the elders in this community. It is, I'm sure, a very moving walk down memory lane for, like you said, Madam Mayor, if you didn't have the benefit of knowing Miss Wilson or meeting her in person, it's a really lovely insight into how she spoke and moved. And for anyone at Mary Baldwin now, who maybe has just moved to Staunton or lived here and doesn't know much about Staunton's segregation history, something that we're perilously close to returning to, I'm afraid. It's really an important film for everyone to watch because it talks about that transition from having to live on one side of Johnson Street, for example, and never daring to venture into the downtown. And then the flip of when you had to go to school with everyone. And then the adjustment of life, of what integration was supposed to be and how it fell short. And frankly, continues to fall short. That's something that came to mind. I thought that here we are at the end of Black History Month, and for people of color, for African Americans, it has probably been a very separate experience as an American than people who are not Black. We've been degraded and denigrated and outraged at every turn this month, but the world just moves on because the spectacle of Black death and humiliation is par for the course. It is a pattern of life in America. And considering the sitting executive and his cronies and the unending brutality visited and inequality visited upon African Americans and people of color, and now people who lack satisfactory citizenship status in this country, it's really been nothing to write home about, and it's getting worse every year.
Thank you for comments, Mr. Barmer. Do we have a hand raised on Zoom?
We have no hands raised at this time.
Is there anybody in chambers who would like to speak? Any of the students who are visiting us? Please, we would love to hear what you have to say.
One of the students now. Just kidding. Sorry, that was a joke.
Hello, I'm Karen Russ. I live on Biltmore Street in Staunton. I had a couple of brief comments. I looked over the community survey before I came, and a couple of things struck me. Number one is that if you look at, there are a lot of positive things about Staunton, and most of us really think this is a good place to live. But if you look at things that people are uneasy about, I see a lot of economic insecurity. People are unhappy with their child care. They're worried about availability of jobs and the cost of housing. And I don't expect us to have magical solutions for any of these problems, but I think that we should be aware of these are the people who live in our city. These are the people who we should be listening to and trying to keep their needs in mind when we look forward to what we should be doing with the city. On an unrelated note, but not really because everything goes together. I also noted a great deal of dissatisfaction with the recycling program, which, you know, I can cope with because I don't have a job. I got lots of time to go to the recycling center. Many people don't. I did hear the story about how curbside recycling didn't work because people would not sort their recycling, and I saw this happening on the street in my neighborhood, so I think that's probably accurate. One suggestion I could make is that not everybody is going to recycle, so you might be able to get a better curbside recycling program if you had people pay to opt in, if they had to pay for their bins or pay for the service, but you didn't have to. And that way you'd only get the people who are interested in recycling. It's just a suggestion. And the other thing that struck me while I was looking through the capital improvements plan, which is a lot to take in, there are electric police cars, there are electric school buses, probably some other vehicles the city should use. And when you're thinking about replacements for public vehicles, I would ask you to look at using electric vehicles in the future. So that's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Russ. Do we have any hands raised?
We have one hand raised.
Thank you. Hello, caller. Mr. Lewis, can you hear me? Mr. Lewis, do you have your mute button on?
We're on
Oh, I'm
now.
sorry. Good morning. Good evening, Miss Lee. Yes, you're on now.
Okay, I just want to call and thank you for recognizing our dear friend Rita Wilson. That's all. This is Black History Month, and thank you for recognizing her. That's all.
You're welcome, Miss Lee, and I always want to thank you for your service to the city as well. Thank you for calling in. Good to hear from you. Would anyone else in chambers like to speak?
Hi, I'm Emma Kirby. I live on West Frederick Street. I know we're a little bit out from our snow emergency, but Mayor Edwards, I know you worked to create like an emergency warming shelter. So thank you for that. And I wanted to just propose that the city, I know funding and staffing is difficult, but consider operating a cooling shelter in the summer and warming shelter in the winter as we continue to see more and more extreme and dangerous temperatures, both for people who are unhoused and I think, you know, as utility bills continue to go up, a lot of people who are stably housed are going to struggle to keep their housing, you know, warm or cold, depending on the season. So I know logistically that'd be difficult, but I just wanted to urge the city to consider it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Emma. Do we have a hand raised on Zoom?
We have no hands raised.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers who would like to speak? All righty. Well, we'll move on to matters from the,
You want me to go ahead and go?
yeah, sure.
Okay. I just had one item. I lost it. Sorry. It was a repeat from last week, last 2 weeks ago. Okay, here we go. Because of the snow, the stakeholder meeting for the comprehensive plan update for the meeting with the deaf community was delayed, but that is coming up next week on Wednesday, March 4th from 6 to 7:30 PM on the second floor meeting room of the Staunton Library. And that's all I have this evening.
All righty. Short and sweet. Well, that will end our meeting, and the meeting of the Staunton City Council is adjourned.